You're watching Morning at NTV.
Let's get to the big story now. On the big story, we look at folks from the Democratic Party. It's been making news in the recent past. A couple of things are happening there. Many of the, if you like, prodigal sons are returning home. They are saying, look, we want to get back home and start from where we stopped. So this morning, we talk to them and understand what caused their departure, what has caused their return. Is the party going to become a juggernaut now that folks are returning home? But more importantly, what plans do they have going forward? The elections that are coming up, is the opposition going to be united this time around? That and more on the big story. My guest, Dr. Luma Bega. He's a former member of parliament and he's also a DP member. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, viewers. Good morning.
We're also joined by the Honorable Mike Mavike. He's a former MP and he's also a member of the Democratic Party. Good morning.
Good morning.
Where have you been? You have been loudly quiet. Your silence has been very loud until recently. What have you been up to?
Sometimes in politics you don't have to be on the news all the time. And you know that Napoleon said that when people are quiet, then they are planning for serious engagement. And indeed we've been planning for very serious engagements. Okay, we begin to see the fruits of those engagements.
Dr. Luma, you know, there are these folks that, for one reason or another, decided they will not be very close to the party. At some point, they were called rebels. You were called a rebel at some point by some of the party members, at least I remember. What has caused the change of heart?
We began our journey to liberate this country from dictatorship when we were still young. Undergraduates in Makerere University, 1995. By the way, before 1995, 94. And as young people, we felt that President Museveni and the movement system had no future. It was no future for democracy. So we chose that path. And we formed the Uganda Young Democrats. That was the first formidable youthful organization which bolstered the efforts of the Democratic Party to make an impact and show Ugandans that a dictatorship under one-party state had no future globally. And we actualized that in 2005. So, to answer your question shortly, after that formation, we made our impact and we decided to go in various forms, a number of formations. You can call that rebels, people can call you rebels and so on, but communication has always been around. We cannot even call those people who are working with President Museveni today rebels of UID or DP, because we have communications with them. And at an opportune time, they will be back again to the set path that will take us to liberate the country and get rid of dictatorship in the country.
Honorable Mavike, both of you, by the way, are founding members of UYD, Uganda Young Democrats. You are now alumni. And so you were a part of the inner sanctum, if you like, of the Democratic Party. But at some point, you chose to break ranks. Why did you break ranks back then?
No, of course, many issues happened. A lot happened over years. But one thing you should know is that when we formed the UID, it had threats internal and external. And even inside the party itself, I think there were many people were not comfortable. And as such, our methods of work began varying. And at one point, we could not stick together. But after such a long time, we have realized that it is important that we put our act together, because in unity lies our strength. And it makes no sense for you to have a formidable opponent like you, Museveni, while you, who would be planning together, working together, pulling resources together, pulling all your energies together, are scattered. So we decided that indeed time is now for us to come back together again and refocus on the remaining mission. When we began the UID, as young people, operating inside DP, the prime mission then was to get for Uganda better governance, manifested through a multi-party dispensation that we were able to achieve in 2005. Now, the remaining task per our manifest is regime change. And the regime change is such a daunting task that not even a single individual, not a single institution can engage. So it is important that we marshal together, pull resources together, pull energies together, and embark on the only remaining task now of achieving for Uganda better governance through regime change and ensuring that Uganda, after Museveni, does better than it is doing now.
So, Honorable Bega, has the issues that you folks were concerned about before you got uncomfortable with the main structures of the Democratic Party, has that changed? Because now you're saying, you know what, we can do this again together. You're saying you want to wrestle this current regime out of power. Have the push factors now gotten sorted out that now you are being pulled back? The issues that we are concerned about, is it all good now?
Yeah, at that time we grappled with various issues, including management of success. You see, we were young people and we were very successful politically. We hit the national chart and we became a major opposition force that made President Museveni and his youthful members of NRM to panic. So I think we failed to manage that success story. But we also felt that there were a number of paths that we could take in order to achieve our set goals, not only for liberation of the country in terms of getting rid of a dictatorship as a single-party state to multi-party dispensation, but also to effect regime change and we get good governance. So some of us felt that maybe when we access positions of elective positions, members of parliament, LC5 and so on, that could be a good path in order to bolster our efforts. It worked in one way or another. Other people thought otherwise and so on. So everybody had different ways of doing things. Of course, he formed the political party at that time. But as time goes on, and we see that what we had started has not ended, and we have not achieved the goal as yet, we decided that it is necessary now to combine all the efforts to get all the experiences that we have gathered while we are pursuing our political careers, so that we can come back together again and say, what was our mission in the beginning and how do we reach there? Building on the experiences that we have got in governance. Many of us have gone even back to school. Previously, those who had not achieved requisite education have gone back to school. We have got a lot of exposure. We have built a lot of friendship nationally and internationally. Our friends with whom we were within the same cohort in various countries are heads of state. They are prime ministers, they are members of parliament, and we continue to communicate. So it is our time now to begin on the trajectory that we had started to ensure that what others are achieving elsewhere, we achieve in Uganda. And we have got all that broad support. So we cannot continue with the different trajectories. We must put our acts together and harvest from the efforts that we started to make Uganda a better place for all of us to live in.
Honorable Mabeke, there are some folks that have said that you had slowly but surely begun to get into political oblivion, and so that's why you are seeking home again. How do you respond to those people?
That's not right. Actually, you know that Uganda right now there is a lot of space. There's a void in Uganda's politics, I think most of the leadership that we have today has issues. It is lacking in many issues. And the kind of experience that we've got, the kind of local and international network that we've got, does not point to a force which has really been in oblivion. When I said initially, when people get quiet, they are of course doing planning. But the most important aspect of this all is that we must establish a single or common platform. And that common platform, which is agreed and which can pull all the local and international network that we have built over time into single focus. And this is exactly what we are doing. It is also true that, of course, when a force operates single-handedly, it may not really achieve much. And when you put your efforts together and you come together, certainly you achieve more than you achieve individually. So working together does not mean weakness. Working together is only a decision that can be taken by those who are foresighted. If you are not foresighted, of course, you may think that alone you can do much. But you and me now agree that in the current order in Uganda, not even FDC, not even DP single-handedly, not even any single party can go it alone.
You had formed the party, the Social Democratic Party, SDP. What happens to that party now that you're returning to your former party?
Of course, that is still under discussion, because you know that SDP is not a very small party. SDP has been and is perhaps the 6th biggest party in the country.
How many members are a part of that party?
Close to about 20,000. You've got mayors, you've got councillors in the different parts of the country. And that was one of the fastest growing parties, by the way, in Uganda. But we still think that pulling together with bigger forces, we achieve more than we can really work alone.
So are you getting it now to be a part of DP? How do you do this? Because you are saying, I'm now back to becoming a DP member. So what does that mean, you know, about your role in the SDP?
No, that is still under discussion, and you know that we've got a function on the 23rd of May. On the 23rd of May, we are going to roll out a complete program, and we are going to address all these other attendant issues like that one. So your question actually preempts what we are going to unveil on the 23rd of May.
Well, we look forward to the 23rd. Luma Bega, you folks are saying that your main agenda now is regime change. What's your strategy? There's been attempts to make sure that happens for donkey's years. We are still waiting for that to, Ugandans are still waiting for that to happen. What new thing are you telling them you're going to do?
In order to effect regime change? But it is ripe.
What do you mean?
See, when you harvest...
We had that in 2006.
When you harvest bogoya...
We are in 2018 now.
When you harvest bogoya, it is raw, in raw form, it is green. You leave it for some time, it becomes yellow, and you can now eat it. All the efforts that we started in 1994 through 1995, 1996 are now reaching fruition. This regime was unknown to people that it was a dictatorship. President Museveni was a darling of very many people, and he had a lot of promises. Actually, many of our parents felt that we were mad at that time. We forward told them that this man is going to stick in power, and a lot of things are going to happen which are going to destroy this economy. We saw the constitution-making process, and we also saw the actors behind the curtains fixing certain things which were obnoxious and unacceptable in a modern society, unacceptable to the people of Uganda. Today, people say we were prophets. We were unacceptable at that time, and President Museveni's regime pounced on us through LDUs. You remember how fast they would take us? We could hardly speak to people. But whenever we got a chance to speak to engage the masses, people would realize that we had a message. He was strong, and he was promising, and he had the 10 points program that was still fresh in people's minds, and they felt that these were the blue-eyed men who wanted a fundamental change in Africa, and in Uganda in particular. People thought that they had a messiah. Today, contradiction after contradiction were spelled out in 1996 and the subsequent years by us, that this is a man who will contradict himself. At one point he says political parties were the problem of Uganda. At another time then he says they are the solution to the problems of Uganda. So a man of contradictions. And people have lived the 20 years since we started, the Ugandan Democrats, since we thrust ourselves into the national politics, we are now prophets, because what we foretold has come to be noticed as true. So we are re-engaging again. We are saying, since we told you that before you could see, we had seen, now it is possible for us to tell them what we want to do for the country. And we shall do it. We could not be believed then, we can be believed now. Because it is they, the people, who we foretold, who are now calling us the prophets.
Honorable Mabike, why should you people be believed? Because, you know, a Ugandan can say, going by your statements, that they've been hoodwinked by leaders. Not once, not twice, several times. And so they are looking at you folks and they're thinking, wait a minute. President Museveni back then sounded better than even you are sounding. And people believed him. Now you are the same people that are hounding him and saying he has done a shambolic job. He promised a fundamental change. Matter of fact, when he was being sworn in 1986, if you look for that video on YouTube, you realize he actually said, I think this is a fundamental change. So he actually thought, maybe he wasn't too sure. He said, I think this is a fundamental change. And anyway, Ugandans believed him. And in your own words, he has let down Ugandans. So why should Ugandans trust you? Because they're thinking, you're all politicians, you're promising good, you'll get this thing, and we'll be where we are again many years from today.
No, one thing you should know, Joel, is that the people of Uganda did not actually believe in President Museveni.
But they voted for him overwhelmingly.
They were just in a desperate situation. They were in a desperate situation because the years, the violent years of Idi Amin and Milton Obote were nasty. So they were yearning for something away from that violence, away from that kind of leadership. But one thing you should know is that times have changed. Formerly, not many Ugandans were as exposed as they are now. Today, you've got people who have not gone to school in Dubai, in Oman, all over the world, in China, trading in China and everywhere. You know, you've got this NTV, you've got this DSTV. People are on media, social media, all over the world. So people can compare. When I come on NTV and say, Uganda must be better, we must have better roads. And some Ugandans who have been in Dubai, who have been just in Oman, who have just been in Kenya here, will really say, yes, I think he's saying right. So today, unlike in the past, you've got case studies to compare. When you visit Kenya, when you visit Kigali, it's very simple. It's so near home. It may not take you, even cost you an air ticket when you visit Kigali. And then I come back and on an interview and tell you, we need proper planning. We need better housing. And you have been to Kigali. Really, you say, yeah, I think I believe what Mabike is saying. So I think we've got now positive cases to compare to, which was not the case previously. By the time Mr. Museveni captured power, Ugandans were so raw, were so green, they were less exposed as they are now in 2018. So we are not promising air. What we are saying is that Uganda must take leaf from other countries which have made it. And I am sure that many Ugandans today travel. They have been to China, they have been to Singapore, they have been to South Africa, they have been to Zimbabwe. They see what's taking place there. The fact is, we deserve better than we have got under the national resistance movement. And we are saying the time is now. Out of 32 years of power, 35 years of power in power in 2021, that President Museveni should accept that he has tried his best. And he cannot do more than he has. And it's time for a new breed to take charge. And there's no other breed to take charge. It is us.
Honorable Bega, how does the opposition to which you belong get to dislodge the NRM with all that's happening within the opposition? Because you see, when people look at you, they've always said, you guys, can you, for example, have one joint candidate? You never make that happen. There's lots of divisions within the opposition. The opposition seemingly spends more time nibbling away at each other, and yet one would think your enemy, political enemy, is the NRM. But then the guns are pointed among yourselves at each other, and so you spend more time fighting each other and giving room to the other one. So how do you hope to dislodge them then when this is what's happening? Your house is on fire, and by house I mean now, you know, the opposition collectively.
We have always made mistakes because we thought that if at all you follow the calendar given by the Electoral Commission, and then they announce a presidential election is going to take place next year, so you identify a candidate now. We must give direction early as possible. And this is what exactly we are doing. We want Ugandans to get a direction so that their structures can configure. And according to Dr. Lulume of 2004, it is a political direction that is going to determine the structure configurations. You can even quote. That is Lulume, 2004. So our direction has always been late, given late. And therefore, the structures could not, commensurate structures could not configure. Yet, the person with whom we have always been competing is unchanging. He gives them direction. He says, there are no vacancies at the top. And everybody knows. So they configure those structures according to that direction given. So we want to benefit from earlier reorganization. Not just a matter of dislodging President Museveni and his regime and throwing it away, but to show Ugandans that we need continuity, so that they get confidence that a new team of leaders is coming, and therefore they can even advise on the after President Museveni era. At the moment, we need to advise ourselves, and the media needs to focus on an era after President Museveni, because we are so blinded. We are blinded by the presence of President Museveni, as if we have accepted that he should be a life president, as if we have accepted that he should be a life president, that he is definitely going to win the next election. He is there. So we are oblivious of our future simply because of the presence of President Museveni. And that is foolhardy. Only fools may not want to discuss the post-Museveni era now. We are beginning this discussion, to which we would like Ugandans to get engaged, so that after 2021, when his term elapses, people will be free to advise him that yes, we have a new set of leaders who can replace you and your team, or even integrate some of you for continuity of our motherland. That is what our vision. And he should not get scared. These discussions are going to be in the open to discuss Uganda after President Museveni in 2021. And this discourse should attract intellectuals, non-intellectuals, all Ugandans alike, who have been oblivious of our future, must engage now. And then we organize those who will take leadership in the next. Our mistake has always been that we ambush the electorate. We ambushed them with the one time with Dr. Kizza Besigye, with the reform agenda at that time. We ambushed them with Amama Mbabazi. We have been ambushing them about who is going to be the leader. Now they need to know who are going to be our leaders after President Museveni. And we are going to set a team.
All right. Honorable Mapike, you're a lawyer. How how does the country, or perhaps is that the direction it should take, that there should be availed a soft landing for President Museveni to exit with ease legally? You know, some folks are thinking about a bill, you know, that could make sure that he exits with ease, such that there is no retribution after his departure, that people don't go for his head. Is that something that you know, should be thought about? Because again, there are folks that will hear people like you saying Museveni must go, and they will say now when he hears the likes of you saying he must go, if he goes, you're going to go after him, his family, and everybody else.
Yeah. Yes, coming to that, one, and to buttress Doctor's argument, one, Uganda did not start with President Museveni, and it is not going to end with him. And right now, to gain the confidence of the population, the opposition, those in opposition, and those trying to push President Museveni out of power must start doing things differently. And this involves a broad strategy, early organization, different way of packaging message, and even extending olive branches like you're talking about. We've got cases we can actually copy and modify and apply. The case in point is, of course, that one of Ghana, where they had a situation similar to what you're talking about, where they had what they called a presidential transition act. They went to Parliament and said we have a problem of jerry rollings. I mean, all he requires is he wants to go, but I mean, he must be assured of security. So what did the Ghanaians do? They went to Parliament, they enacted a presidential transition bill, act actually. And in this act, they gave the president privileges. They gave Jerry Rawlings immunities. And they gave him a good package, a good send-off package. Similar to, I think, what we had in Zimbabwe with Robert Mugabe, because, you know, at the end of the day, even after the coup with Robert Mugabe, the generals had to sit down and negotiate with him what kind of immunities he had, what kind of privileges he had, and even what kind of retirement package he would get. And for me, and even I think with Doctor, when we were in Parliament, we tried to push for this very idea of having an act in Parliament that would guarantee President Museveni from any prosecution, that is legal immunity, and also give him privileges to remain as perhaps even give him the position of father of the nation. So it is extremely important that we explore that avenue. And of recent...
Maybe before you go to that, the presidential transition bill, which we had started with you in the 8th Parliament, I proceeded with it in the 9th Parliament, and it is lying at Parliament. It was read for the first time. Well, I asked for permission, to be granted permission, to take leave of Parliament to introduce it. And that is when Anita came and shut it down through mob justice. Fortunately, the Speaker of Parliament, Kadaga, was in chair, and she decided that let us shelve it until members are sensitized about it. Then you can take leave. That was the first time a member of Parliament is denied an opportunity to take leave.
So it was shelved,
and it is still there.
Dust.
And I think it is still the very idea that was being proposed by Honorable Sam Lyomochi during the confusion of the Magezi Act, Magezi Bill. I think Lyomochi was trying to pursue this very idea. So among the alternatives that we've got, apart from the real political work that we've got to do to really push Mr. Museveni out through an election or through the power of the people, I think that it is time now that we consider, as the opposition, to ensure that that bill is actually debated in Parliament and passed. Perhaps that would be one way of extending an olive branch to the president and ensuring that we send a message that we mean well, we don't just hate him, but we love Uganda more.
Luma Bega, when you say that you're going to reach out to Ugandans and tell them the time for change is now, you know, as media people, we interact with Ugandans, and many of them are in a state of disconsolateness. They have resigned. They are thinking, you know what, as long as I can wake up, go work, earn a living, take care of my family, you know, let them Museveni's rule for as long as they want. And you're saying you're counting on these people. What new message are you telling them? Because they're saying politics has let us down. Let's try and survive.
The people you
and
are
leave those politicians alone.
The people you are talking about are grossly unhappy. Those driving around, those taking beer.
Yeah, but they're doing nothing about it. So
they are grossly unhappy. They are only rich when they are in their homes and driving their vehicles. But let them get out of that and they find poverty. They have nothing to do other than dipping into their purse and then paying the bills of other people who have not. They are grossly unhappy because the surrounding is obnoxious. It is not supportive of people who are wealthy. Nobody is wealthy.
How do you guys hope to change that? I'm interested in hearing that magic bullet, and I'm sure Ugandans want to hear that too.
Would you like us to preempt it now, or you would like to give us another talk show so that we you
can give us Jaribu so that people get to think, okay, maybe these guys are serious. Because you see, poverty is everywhere. Everybody says it. It's easy to talk about it. But what's the remedy? What's the solution that you guys have up your sleeves?
Simple. We can do simple things. One, avoid leakages in this economy. Uganda is a beautiful country. Uganda is extensively wealthy a country. But leadership will not permit the economy to work for everybody. Those who have will continue to have. You know the Gini coefficient? Those who have a lot, and they do not show you the trend they have gone through in order to become rich. They have no track record of how they navigated to get into that richness. Then those who are poor have continued to be too poor. And therefore the Gini coefficient is so high. And we can change this. This we shall change.
How do you do so, Honorable Mabike? Because many of your folks have actually been nibbled away by President Museveni and the NRM. Many of your colleagues within your party have been snatched, and they're the other side. You're perhaps one of the few who you've lost an election, and you have remained around. Many others have been snatched. And sometimes people look at folks in the opposition and they're thinking, these ones are also waiting to eat. That's why it's easy for them to cross over to go to the eating table.
First, Joel, I want to disagree with you on the point that Ugandans seem to have abandoned their quest for better governance. That's not correct. Actually, Ugandans are now, when you go to the countryside, are more desperate than they were in 1986 when President Museveni took charge. Ugandans are more poor. Ugandans have got less opportunities than they had in 1986. Ugandans now are suffering under so many other issues that have been actually caused by this regime. Don't you forget that when President Museveni captured power and he was asked, what is Africa's problem? He said, you know, in relation to Uganda, the problem is not even economics. The problem is politics, because it is the politics which determines the economics. Now, when the politics goes wrong, the economics also falters. And this is the situation we're having now. With the collapse of the political machine in the country, with this paralysis that you see, you are seeing this effect trickling down now with the economy. And you are nearly seeing a near crumbling of the economy. An economy that was performing at nearly between 7 to 8% is now performing at less than 5%. You know that. So, for sure, Ugandans can get out of this situation with better governance, with better planning, with better use of our resources, with a smaller government. We have always questioned, why should a small country like Uganda, 40 million, have 450 members of parliament? 112 RDCs, deputy RDCs, presidential advisors who he never sees, presidential advisors whom he never sees. And you have got this wastage of a president of the Republic of Uganda moving in a convoy of 40 vehicles, and the vice president moving in another convoy of 20 vehicles, and every single minister moving in a convoy of more than 3, now with the police escorts, and all this fuel. I think it's about reorganization of the state. How do we reorganize the state? How do you utilize whatever little resources we've got better? And how do we establish effective systems of government? Okay. Now, Kenyans have moved ahead. We have always clamored for federalism. And we have said that federalism will end corruption. Federalism will distribute resources. Federalism will offer more opportunities. Kenyans have now done it. They have had Majimboism. They have established 40 counties. And the Kenyan economy is doing far better than it has ever done, because now resources are well shared, resources are more effective. Regions are doing their wells, they are doing their water, they are doing their schools, they are doing their hospitals, they are doing their agriculture. Now, what is lacking in Uganda is nothing. It's not economics. It is politics. And that's what we must correct.
My time is up, I'm afraid, but this is a conversation that we shall keep having. You folks say you're going to have that conference on 21st?
23rd of May.
23rd?
Of May.
Yes.
Okay, we will keep watching. Hopefully we'll have you again before then and perhaps after, because we need to keep asking. You know, when somebody says, look, I have a solution, you know, we should be interested in quizzing these people to tell us, so what is that solution? Because we've had that solution before. How different is it? And then we can let Ugandans decide at the end of the day. But thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this morning and for talking to us.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for the big story. Thank you for joining us. My name is Joel Senyonyi.